Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte Firm. It's Sunday, the 20th of July, and it's wet and it's cold outside here in London. So I thought, what better than to bring my good friend James and just have a nice, easy Sunday Q&A. James, welcome to the show, now of the Canon podcast as well. How are you, my man? Welcome back to the firm.
I'm good. As I say, it's kind of a new thing for me being a host as well as a guest. But it seems to be I'm finding my feet a little bit, and I've got a newfound respect for your job because asking the questions and answering the questions and reading the chat and making sure everyone's behaving, it's no small feat. So yeah, I'm hopefully everyone in the chat now appreciates what you do because you're smashing it this summer, and I love to see it.
Thanks, James. Very kind of you. Yeah, Yembele was saying the same thing. He's just started up his own podcast, Red Lines and Half Spaces, for anybody interested. And it is very difficult. It's so challenging, juggling all the chat, the slide deck, of course, and anything else that you want to share on screen. And even the preparation, James, that goes into some of this stuff, the scheduling, the sort of coordinating diaries, times with people like yourself, kind guests who give up their time.
I find it
amazing.
stress. That part of things is so much more stressful than the actual just speaking about Arsenal. People don't realize what goes on behind the scenes, but yeah, it's good stuff. And yeah, as I say, good to see you're getting your flowers and the channel's growing. And
Thank you.
yeah, to see where this can go now because you're gaining some momentum here. So
Yeah,
let's
some
see.
real momentum. And obviously the guests make it, but the viewers make it. It's been a fantastic summer. I decided to do the daily grinds 6-7 weeks ago. Record views, record numbers of new subscribers in a short space of time. We're closing in on 25,000, by the way, ladies and gents, boys and girls. If anybody's tuning in for the first time, please do drop that like on the video. It's a massive help. But James, yeah, you know it. You know the struggle. And actually, the chatting is probably the easiest bit. So let's go straight through to the chat. Dave in the chat first today. Morning, Gooners. Karen, good morning. She says, hope everyone is well. Oslo Gooners in the house saying, good morning, Gooners. Sheen, El Perdador, Paul James. Some very loyal viewers here. Love it. Alessandra, Hedgeblog, that's a new name, says, goodly morning, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Good morning to everybody. Andy Love says, morning, FK. Can you remember an Arsenal transfer window like this? So much going on with the first team and the academy. We're going to get into that, Andy. Les Fogging Go, guys, says Josh. Wow, my fave duo. There we are. Wow. How'd you like that, Alexander Moneypenny? Hey? Etienne Boy says, morning, boys. Sends us a little kiss as well. Good morning back to you, Dipak, and a kiss back to you as well, my man. Nice. Oh, do you know what? The chat is just so wholesome. It makes it all so worthwhile. Look at this. Carrie, also another Patreon member, sending love from Finland. Dan Alpha's in the house as well, another Patreon member. Morning, FK, James and Gooners. What's good? Well, what isn't good? There's so much going on. Keep the chat active. Really appreciate it. Gosh, El Perdador, thank you so much for the generous contribution to the channel. It's greatly appreciated. You guys will never, ever appreciate just how much this means to me. He says, watch back yesterday's pod, another elite one. Now, James, I'm not sure if you saw this yesterday, but I had a new debutante on the Latte Firm, and it was Pythagoras in boots. So Pythag, Rice, his name, not Declan, but he came on and he gave an absolute masterclass in terms of what Arsenal's new attack could look like and the tactical tweaks that Mikel Arteta has to make to really get the best out of Noni Madueke and Victor Gyökeres. And then we ended with like a gung-ho sort of tactical map about if we're chasing a game, if we're chasing a win or a last-minute late goal in a game, the squad strength that now we're going to have is really phenomenal. So this was a great show. If anybody's watching and has missed it, it's on the channel feed. It's there. And I really appreciate the very kind feedback. James, let's just get your initial thoughts on the window in general. I'll come to you about Arsenal window, but just the window in general, because in the last few hours, of course, Liverpool are now moving towards Hugo Ekitike. They flew out the blocks.
Here we go.
They got have they right? So that's confirmed. So they at the start of the window they flew out the blocks with Gyökeres and Frimpong and Wirtz. City, of course, before the Club World Cup, flying out the blocks as well with their 4 signings. I can't even remember. United have moved mad as well. Had their sort of pants held down with Brian Mbeumo on the fee, but Mateus Cunha, a good signing there. Spurs are doing bits as well. What do you make of it all?
It's been somewhat surprising to me because historically in the windows we've kind of just, especially under Edu, we've addressed the problems very systematically and very slowly, and we've had our primary targets and we've taken it down to the wire to go for them. And if we haven't gone for them, then we've eventually buckled and gone for plan B, which has often not succeeded. But this window, we've had a much more aggressive approach, which I've really enjoyed. And a problem has arisen. Thomas Partey has left, and then we bring in Norgard. We need a backup goalkeeper. We don't waste any time. We bring Kepa in, because why do you need to wait until deadline day to sign Neto on a free? Sometimes a bit of proactivity in the market is very healthy. Now, in the past, yes, that strategy has got us some really significant players, but it's also missed out on real big opportunities, and it's sort of what left us in the state that we've been in, where every season we've been one player short. So my expectation this transfer window was that we would fill in the big problems. We'd sign a striker, we'd sign a left wing, we'd sign Zubamendi and maybe a backup centre midfielder. But I've been very impressed with Mosquera signing. Obviously, pending paperwork. I think that's all pretty much done now. But he's someone I didn't expect. And assuming we sign another winger on Madueke, the Saka backup issue that we hadn't really addressed, but is a massive, massive problem and has been for a long time. Madueke seems to solve a lot of that. So I like that we're going above and beyond in trying to solve the issues, and not we're going to speak about this later, but had we signed Isak, we'd have blown a lot of our budget on a single player there and then had to take risks. And it feels like this season we're going, no more risks, no more excuses with depth in this. We're going to cover all bases. And if that means we don't get Isak, then we don't get Isak. We can solve those problems later down the line. But now we need quality players, 2 quality players in each position. And I think we're about there now.
Lots of lovely messages in the chat and greetings from all over the world. So Nicholas says, it's only 5:10 a.m. here in Chicago and the sun's not up yet, so I've decided to have one last beer while I watch before bed. You're going to have a great day tomorrow, Sir Nicholas, once you've woken up. Just on the Gyökeres deal, look, we all follow Hand of Arsenal. We all follow our favourite sort of sources for news and journalists on the internet. And depending on what you believe, Gyökeres, I think it's all kind of done. He's apparently maybe on his own sort of, personal training sort of program, ready to sign for Arsenal. Sporting Lisbon, of course, being a listed business means that we have to announce news in a certain way or at a certain time. But all the R's asks, what the yuck? He's missed the squad for the tour. The boys are obviously in Singapore. Pictures of them landing and signing shirts for Arsenal fans in the early hours of this morning. And he asks, are we concerned yet? So, I mean, look, Victor Gyökeres is on screen. Christian Mosquera is also on screen. But, of course, that photo was leaked of him having his media stuff. There was some fine sort of details in his paperwork that Hand of Arsenal said had to be sorted and has been sorted. Are you confident we're going to get both of those two over the line? And does it really matter that they've not gone to Singapore on the day that the squad has flown?
It's certainly frustrating, I think, from a cultural side of things, to embed them in the squad. And I guess the aim this window was to get a striker in before we went on tour. I'm sure that would have been Berta and Arteta's goal also. I think actually it was spoken about. Arteta said, whoever we get, let's bring them on tour. But what I think people are missing is, just because they don't fly out with the squad, they can still fly to Singapore. And as far as I'm aware, they can still fly to Singapore and join the squad on tour. So he might miss the first 3 days, but if that saves us £3 million, we're not the accountants here, but I'm sure the club would say it's well worth it. And also, there's a lot of posturing in the window where we've got to stick to our principles, because if clubs know that by waiting they can get more money out of us, it's not just this deal, it will happen every single deal after this. So this window, we've not been naive and chased targets that are unattainable. This is an attainable target for sure, but we are sticking to our guns, and incredibly frustrating because it does feel like this could have just been done. But I think hopefully over the next few days it will be done and he will be with the squad in Singapore.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat that are actually quite disappointed and frustrated, and I was chatting to a few people on socials yesterday about this. I mean, Adzi, thanks for your comment, says, no new attacking players on the pre-season tour. It's pretty shocking. I think Mikel Arteta spoke about the importance of having a striker in before the tour of Singapore. But these things are complex, James. We've been in the game long enough
Yeah.
to know that signings can take time. There are lots of parties involved. It's not just the club and speaking to the player, it's family, it's representatives, it's the opposition club, it's the financials. In this case, it's the Portuguese Stock Exchange. There's lots of things that are happening and just take time. And like you say, the boys have flown to Singapore. In an ideal world, he'd have been part of the airport crew and they would have been enjoying the lounge and part of all the media stuff. I get it. But the reality is, there's probably a dozen flights from London to Singapore a day. And if it gets announced tonight, tomorrow, Tuesday, whatever, he can fly out. And as quick as he'll be out there with the boys. And our first fixture, I believe, is not until Wednesday. And then they're quite spaced out. So plenty of time for him and maybe one other to happen. Oslo Guna says, apparently Saka and Rice have been crucial for Noni to sign for us. Some really wholesome content coming out this morning, James, of Noni Madueke looking at his shirt. Really sort of, a bit like Norgard, a bit sort of blown away, praising the shirt. There was a little interview with Berta saying that he's spoken to Timber and to Dex and to Sachs. I mean, what do you make of the Madueke signing? Because you've not been on the channel for a while, so I just want to get your inner thoughts on that.
Obviously, at first, I had the same reservations that everyone had. Another Chelsea player. He's not what we need at left wing. We need a traditional left winger. And maybe this is just me supporting the club and coping to try and make sense of it all. But the more time passes by, the more this makes sense, assuming we do sign another player in left wing. Because I don't think he's good enough as our only left wing option or our only additional left wing option. But we were desperate for a Saka, not a replacement, pardon me. We were desperate for a Saka backup. He's been crying out for it, and especially considering Saka's injury worries recently, if we've got a Premier League, at least top 4 quality winger that is there as stability, that's huge for us. He offers us some traits that we don't already have with his direct running. He's probably would be the most powerful runner in our team, and the way he carries the ball is very impressive. And again, on the left wing, he'd be able to go on the outside, which is something we've lacked. With Martinelli and Trossard, both of them are desperate to come inside. If you got Madueke on the left, it offers another facet and another attribute. So I'm sure you've done a much better analysis than I can do with Pythag yesterday. But he adds what we've been needing, more strings to our bow. Now, it isn't the final string, and I don't think it's the arrow that will make the final blow. But it's an important string, nevertheless, I think.
It is. By the way, a few of you sort of talking about players that have signed in between sort of tours and games that we've had in pre-season. Jeet here, welcome to the show, says Sinchenko joined the US tour halfway through 3 years back. And there were a couple of shouts for other players. Another question.
Sorry to interrupt. One thing I would caveat with the Zinchenko thing is he came from Man City's system, which was very similar to ours and already in the Premier League. Gyökeres will be coming to a brand new system. So really, we kind of do need him to have games in his belt by the time the season starts. So I wouldn't be shocked if Havertz starts the first few games of the season up front. I really wouldn't.
Do you know what, James? Even if Victor Gyökeres was here and he did the La Manga and of course, went out to Singapore yesterday with the boys, there is still a chance that Kai Havertz starts at Old Trafford, because we mustn't forget, pre-injury, Kai Havertz did such a good job leading the line for Arsenal. Not the cleanest or most proficient or clinical striker, we know that. But what he does for the team, Mikel Arteta absolutely loves. I don't think it's as straightforward to kind of say, yeah, look, as soon as Gyökeres signs, as soon as he's settled into the team, he is going to be our number one. I think Arteta is going to ease him in. I think there's going to be a little bit of, fighting between the two of them to lead the line for Arsenal. But there's going to be games where we play both. There's going to be games where we play one or the other. But I think Havertz is pretty nailed on to start at Old Trafford, if I'm being honest.
That's very, very healthy competition, because Havertz went through spells where his finishing was poor. Now, Havertz knows this season that if his finishing is poor, he will get hooked. He'll be out the team. So this season, we've seen the way he's been in the gym. We've seen the way he's bulked up, which potentially will benefit him more as a striker. And hopefully he's been working on his finishing, because, hey, look, if Havertz could finish the way Gyökeres could, genuinely, all jokes aside, he'd be one of the better strikers in the world. But unfortunately, he can't. He's a very poor finisher. But if he can work on it, then we've got a very talented striker there. And who knows what will happen in 2026 now that Liverpool have signed a striker, and Isak is still on the market. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Don't, James. Just as people are calling for hand of Arsenal in the chat, here's a question. Just before we move on to a different topic. On the window, Moyad, hopefully I pronounced your name correctly, says, how does this window reflect on KSE? We're all talking about Berta, Arteta, but what are your thoughts on the ownership, James?
Impressed so far, but I think, again, what it will rely on is the way the window finishes, because we've always left ourselves slightly short. Every window in the KFC.
Sunday morning, 11:20, and he's got the Colonel on his mind. By the way, what are you having for lunch? Because we started this show a little bit late. You said you were helping your partner out with the Sunday lunch. What are you doing?
So it was Bastille Day in France last weekend, and I wasn't here last weekend. I was holidaying, as always. But so my girlfriend speaks French, and she's studying French at university. So we moved Bastille Day to this for today. So French picky bits, all sort of, I don't know how you say it, croque monsieur, and
oh yeah, croque monsieur, yeah, of course,
yeah, all bits.
Very cultured boy, I like it. Sorry, let's go back to KFC. KFC was sounding very appealing, actually. But go on. No, I mean,
KSE, yeah. So apart from the rice, timber, and raya window, was there one more of that window?
I cannot remember. Sorry, Karen's laughter has just
rice,
caught my
timber,
attention.
maybe Havertz. Yeah.
All I'm thinking about now is chicken, James. I'm not gonna lie.
Going back.
How do we repair this, ladies and gents, boys and girls?
Apart from the Havertz, rice, timber, and raya window, I believe they all came in the same window.
Mm-hmm.
Every other window under KSE has felt like we're one player short. And I think if you close the window with these 6 players just done, we're again one player short. We're an Eze short. So if we then do bring in Eze, then that's an 8, 9 out of 10 window for me. I couldn't really ask for more. Sure, Rodrigo would have been amazing, but if he's on 300k a week, and then that relies on a Martinelli sale. But I think without any major Martinelli type sales, I think we're an Eze away from standing up and clapping and saying, really, really impressive job.
Yeah, listen, you've kind of preempted the chat. JK Miyingo has asked, any outside chance we sign Eze and Xavi Simons this summer? Eze as a left wide player and Simons as a central attacking midfielder. So let's move on to that next topic, which is, look, it's not going to be both, but it could be one or the other. The news over the last couple of days is that Xavi Simons is apparently available, interested in a move. Arsenal could be one of those clubs that look to it. Liverpool also, City also sort of lurking in the background. United want just about anyone and everyone. What are your thoughts on Xavi Simons? And, we've talked long and hard on both channels about Eberechi Eze and how he could be the solution and how he could be a low block demon. If it was to be one or the other, lead us to the conversation as to who you'd prefer.
I will be truthfully honest. I haven't watched a whole load of Simons, which is unlike what everyone on the internet seems to say, that they've watched hours and hours of him. But I do like what he offers in terms of his dribbling, his dynamism. He's a very fast player, very very useful in the pockets, and has incredible versatility, left wing, attacking mid, and right wing. My fear, though, is that even more so than Eze, Simons doesn't really have a position. I think in a 3-4-3, he'd be very good inside forward. But I think in our system, I know Eze has similar traits, but as an attacking midfielder, I don't think he's a primary creator. As a winger, I like him, I appreciate him, but again, I don't think he's exactly what we need in that position. So I think he's a great player, but I don't really understand the fit. And we've had a bit of an issue with that in recent years, where we've signed players and gone, great player, and then tried to piece them together, like with the Havertz situation. And I think at this stage in the project, we have enough stability around them that we need a player and we can say we know exactly what they're going to offer. And I think Eze is that player who will raise the floor to another level. I think he is as good as a 12th man you can ask for, if you look to the bench or to the starting 11, I don't know exactly if he would be starting for us, but he's a game changer for me. He never goes hiding, and he's an Arsenal fan, and that means a lot to me.
Well, it means a lot to a lot of us. Obviously, a former Arsenal academy boy. I mean, it has gone a little bit quiet. I understand 433 here saying, honestly, the longer it goes on, I think we're going to sign anyone after Gyökeres. But look, we've spoken to his camp. That was reported 2-3 weekends ago. Arteta has spoken to the Eze camp, and they're keen on a move. Xavi Simons has just sort of come out of nowhere in terms of the news, but I'm sure it's a player that Arsenal and others have been courting for some time. I think the chat is unanimous with their thoughts. They are all very much in love with the idea of Eberechi Eze and that homecoming. What has happened to the poll? I've just set out a little poll, by the way. And here it is. This is, wow, I've never had a poll result like this live. So the question was, if it had to be one or the other, who would you want Arsenal to sign? And just as I've done that, the poll has disappeared. Here we go. Hang on. I don't know where it's gone, but it was 97% Eze. That's insane. 97%. So that is, here we go. It's just come through. It's gone down to 94%. 94% of our viewers on this fine Sunday morning, and there are hundreds of you watching live on YouTube right now, would prefer Eberechi Eze to Arsenal over Xavi Simons.
What I do think is, on the idea that things have gone quiet, he has a release clause. So if we decided that that's what we needed to do, then we can put through the release clause. But I think it is the sort of deal that will go awfully quiet and then will ramp up within a few days. And going back to what I said about Zinchenko, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if he's not on our preseason tour. I think he'll be absolutely fine doing his thing.
Let's hope so. Hector, welcome to the show. He's just so loyal with the chats and his generosity, and of course being in the chat says, yo, jumping on here just now. No one told me about this live. Well, listen, if you want to get all your notifications, please do set the notifications on. It was a last minute sort of decision. StreamYard was messing around with me this morning, as I had to explain to James. So it's great to have you in the house, Hector. Really appreciate you. Trumpton says, hello, peeps. Hello to you. And this is a popular comment now in the chat. I'm not sure. I've not seen it yet. Charles I. Watts has said that reports from Portugal is that Gyökeres' dad was in tears. Something has gone wrong. Yikes.
Isak is back in the picture.
Well, let's move on to that. And by the way, chat, let me have your questions for James. We're trying to take as many messages and questions as possible. Let's talk about this. First of all, we'll talk about Isak in just a second. But Liverpool have done some really great business. And obviously, as reigning champions in the Premier League, they've moved what seems to be quite fast on Hugo Ekitike. He was having talks with Newcastle just as recently as last week. But Michael Edwards has done it again. He's kind of showed his cards and he's made the move. And like you say, we got a Here We Go early this morning. Thoughts on Ekitike to Liverpool? And then, I guess, are you impressed by what Arne Slot has done?
I don't know. Money talks. Like, I'm impressed that, yes, they've spent a large amount of money. They brought in it. It's really interesting, actually. I did not expect them to operate like this in the market at all. After losing Trent, I think losing Trent is going to go under the radar a bit, but I think that makes a significant difference. When Salah played without Trent last season, there were a lot of caveats. It was near the end of the season, but Salah was significantly worse. And that's not surprising when you lose your primary creator. And their midfield isn't particularly designed to have so many creators. So the creation will have to come from elsewhere, which will probably be from the fullbacks and Wirtz, hence why they brought him in. And yeah, I'm surprised where this Coutinho money is still funding them all these years later. But they didn't spend much last window, so there is some logic behind it. Yeah, I'm not worried. I know they're going to be good next season, but I wouldn't say that worries me because I'm not surprised. I think we have also improved. I think Man City have also improved. And yeah, as El Perdedor says, 95 million euros is a lot. And the main concern, I guess, would have been if they got Isak, would have been jealousy. I can't say I'm jealous of the Ekitike deal because I don't think it would have made at all sense for us for 95 million. So I don't think we've missed out on there. Like, suits Liverpool a bit better. It's still an overspend, but I'm not sure who else on the market was ready for them.
I think, to echo Dan's comment there, welcome to the show. Dan says, I'm more scared of Ekitike at Liverpool than at Newcastle. That is because Liverpool are a better team. And of course, he goes in to add to already a collection of very talented forwards. And of course, that was one of their strengths last season. I mean, Ryan's just sent the shivers down me. What if Liverpool get Isak and Ekitike?
Then they would have spent 400 million, by the way. More than
I mean,
I
that's
think.
wild. Yeah, it'd be more than that because Saka is him, says 300 million on Verts, Gyökeres, Frimpong, and Ekitike. It is a lot of money. I mean, just on Ekitike, I mean, there's a market for centre forwards that has just gone wild this summer. And this is a boy who's 23 years of age and he scored 25 goals in his entire career in top flight football, James. What are we doing here? Like, I know we're paying for future. Is it a premium because he's a good age, young Frenchman playing in the German league? Like, but, you know, at 23, you'd expect him to have at least 2 or 3 really top seasons under his belt, no? Same with Šeško.
He's not even a full international. I don't know if he's made any France appearances, but he was at France with the was it under 21 Euros?
That's right, yeah. He's played for under 20s and under 21s.
So yeah, it's crazy expensive. I do think in his age bracket, he is the best striker in the world in his age bracket and one of the best young talents in the world. But 95 million euros is a lot of money. So it is what the market demands nowadays. You pay whatever the team asks for. But this is why we turned to Šeško and said that's too much. Because especially if a player like him flops, then where do you go from there? How much do you recoup of that money? It's unlikely to be much, especially if you have Arsenal's selling power, which is non-existent. But so that is actually something in the window that I'm monitoring and keeping my eye on is how well can we sell, because still not very well, it seems. We haven't got enough people through the door to my liking.
Hold that thought on the sales. I'll ask you a question. By the way, chat, let me have any questions for James. I'm starring them as we go along, so let me know anything relating to Arsenal transfers, whatever, anything you want to know. Ferno says he's a very similar player to Firmino, so he's going to suit this Liverpool team. Firmino with height. Etienne says FK, hand of Arsenal tweet. What has he tweeted? James, do you want to do the honors? Yeah, whoa. It's all kicking off now. HOA tweet. What's happened? Right, hang on. Let's do this live. Hand of Arsenal tweet. Here we go.
Okay, I can see it.
Can you? Arsenal and the camp of Victor Gyökeres are very relaxed about the situation. There is constant communication. Important to choose my words carefully during the final sensitive steps. The player awaits the signal to fly for his medical. One source tells me that he was in Mallorca yesterday, but I'm yet to confirm that. Allow me the grace to report as and when health permitting. Of course, Hand of Arsenal going through some personal challenges. We wish you very well, my friend. I wish Dan Alpha. He tweeted the KFC deal for the Latte firm. Right. So just on Isak, I mean, if he were to do Liverpool, that would be just ridiculous, and that would have me probably crying more out of envy and jealousy. Is there any chance, James, that Isak doesn't move this summer and that both Arsenal and Liverpool go knocking on the door next summer?
I don't think Liverpool would next summer. I think it was Isak or Ekitike because of his age profile. Unless Ekitike is a huge flop, I don't see how that happens. Whereas Arsenal, who have signed 27-year-old Victor Gyökeres, we have Havertz as well, who knows, could be out the door. I think someone would have to leave for Isak to come in, but I don't think it's out the realms of possibility, because unless he signs a contract with Newcastle, they're going to have to sell him at some point, because a player of his quality cannot run down his contract. In all truthfulness, what I think is most likely to happen is he'll end up at Barcelona, because Lewandowski's on his way out, and Isak is, to me, the perfect replacement for that. But if not, if Barca don't have the money, then we're going to have funds next season to allocate and not many problems to solve, because the depth now in our team is insane, as I've said before. So who knows? You heard it here first, but everyone's saying it, so definitely not.
Saka is him saying, yes, James always said this Isak will go to Barcelona, and it'd be very interesting to see if the number 14 shirt at Arsenal doesn't get filled this summer. Let's wait and see. A couple of questions for you, James, before we go. First up, this was early in the show. Lee J, I guess on the subject of strikers. Good morning, gents. How important, in your opinion, is an out-and-out striker in the modern game? Fairly obvious to me, James, but what are your thoughts on that? Have you got any hot takes?
I got more of a nuanced take than an exciting hot take, but it very much just depends on the situation. I think the reason why City signed Haaland and stopped messing around with false nines is because you can win league titles with false nines, but when you get to crunch time in the Champions League, and we saw this with Arsenal last season against PSG, you need someone to stick the ball in the back of the net. And maybe last season, if we had a Gyökeres, all of those chances that fell to Trossard, Martinelli, Marino, Havertz, etc., if one of them fell to Gyökeres, he'd have probably stuck the ball in the back of the net. And Haaland was the same for City, and he delivered a treble. So I don't think it's do or die, because, as I say, over a league season, a number 9 can be worth a lot. But in knockout competitions, you need someone who, during those clutch moments, will make a difference. And I think problem with not having an out-and-out striker, the ball falls to the wrong player in those situations.
Couple of questions about Eze. First one is about if we were to sign Eze, asks Carrie, could it put Martin Odegaard on the bench?
Very, very unlikely. Odegaard is Arteta's favourite, but I think if Odegaard went through a similar period to he did last season, it's not out of the realms of possibility. I think if Nwaneri was a season or two older, I think Nwaneri would have dislodged his place a little bit more. Which also is interesting, because who will be backup for Odegaard? Will it be Eze or will it be Nwaneri? Because clearly Nwaneri was told he will get a more central role and minutes isn't a particular concern of his. So I feel maybe he has been told he is Odegaard's continuity.
433 just coming in and agreeing with Lee LJ. Last question. El Perdador says, question, will Gyökeres and Eze potentially in midfield and Zubimendi, fully fit Calafiori, of course, playing left back, get the best out of Martinelli this season, James? I mean, there was a question that I wanted to ask you earlier when you talked about sales, and there's been a lot of talk about Martinelli, Trossard, pack your bags, ready to go. So answer both, I guess. Would you entertain losing either of them? And if they were to stay, particularly Martinelli, could Zubimendi and potentially a new left-sided attacking midfielder unlock the best of our Brazilian boy?
I don't know if this tweet is if not this tweet, if this comment or question is in full seriousness, but my concern is you read this and you shouldn't, as George from the Canon podcast says, you shouldn't have to squint. You shouldn't have to move all of these pieces for someone to thrive. So maybe they will, but that shouldn't have to be the case. I'm sure everyone would thrive with perfect conditions around them. I want our left winger to thrive in adverse conditions, and I want our left winger to kind of mix it up a little. And I really struggled with Martinelli last season. I'm a huge fan of the player, but I don't think he offered enough at all. So yes, he's more than capable. We've seen what he's been able to do for us before, but I think if he doesn't raise his game, and if Arteta doesn't believe he can raise his game, then I think it is probably time to cash in on him. And I do think he would thrive at lots of different clubs. I think he'd thrive at Bayern with the space you get in the Bundesliga. I think he'd thrive at Barcelona, but they've got Rashford, so clearly that won't happen. But yeah, for Arsenal, the way we play low blocks, I think the conditions that we first saw him excel in were very different to the conditions now in the way teams play against us, in the way we play against teams. And I think both of our left wingers should be considered for sale, because there are lots of talented left wingers on the market. And as long as we're not leaving ourselves short, then yeah, absolutely. It will be a hard goodbye with Martinelli, but unfortunately, these are the levels at this club nowadays.
I'm going to go against the grain with you, James, and say, actually, I disagree with you and George respectfully in that I don't think all players would always thrive in a system that works or in a good environment. I think Martinelli has struggled because obviously, we talked about Xhaka. We didn't really quite replace him properly. Messed about with Havertz at left 8, messed about with Marino, not quite the player Marino then had to go up top. I think Martinelli's also had 3 or 4 very different left backs play behind him. You know, Zinchenko first started off the old tucking into midfield. We had bits of Tierney, bits of we got Miles Lewis Skelly, of course. Who's the other left back? Kivior's played there a few times. Who else have we had in left back over the last couple of years? I want to say Tavares, but no. We've had like Calafiori. We've had like quite a few left backs, all who are very different. And then of course, Declan Rice started playing left 8. Then Havertz came in, and Martinelli. Unfortunately, the right hand side of our team was very functional. Ben White, Saka, Ødegaard, that didn't really change. So the automatisms, the relationships they've got, and of course Arsenal would always constantly play down that right hand side. And of course they're brilliant players, but Martinelli struggled, and I feel that I've observed Martinelli being asked to sort of hold the touchline a bit more. He's not that sort of a player. We don't play him into space. He doesn't get that early release like he used to get from Xhaka, and maybe that'll change with Zubimendi. But I do think.
But we went 16 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss with this system. So we know the system can work. So if the system can work and there's a player who's not functioning perfectly in the system, is it right that that player is in the system, or can we find a player better suited to the system? Also, the other caveat...
I think we can definitely find a better player. But the question going back to... sorry, I forget who asked it. The question was around, can we get the best out of Martinelli? Can we free him? Can we elevate him? I think we absolutely can.
We can, but again, also my question is, who would you start at left back next season? Because he noted Calafiori to help with the overlaps. I would start Lewis Skelly. Lewis Skelly is too good, already too good to not be in our starting 11.
Agreed.
I think, and I tweeted this, I think it will shock people the strides he makes this season, because already last season he went to impressing on the world stage, not just looking in his place. He was impressing against Real Madrid, being one of the best players on the pitch. And I think he's only going to get better. And yeah, right now he is our left back. Who knows when and if he will move into midfield. But I don't think Calafiori will dislodge him from the team, as much as I love Calafiori too, in both left back and centre back.
Well, this has surprised me. Lofted Jumper says, saw a tweet yesterday that Martinelli has got more non-penalty goals than Saka in the last 3 seasons. That's very surprising.
Yeah,
Saka did miss the last 6 months, to be fair.
And that includes Martinelli's 15 goals. No one's doubting that, that first season Martinelli was incredible.
Fair enough. Hector, why are you doing this to me, man? Why are you doing this to me? Gyökeres is off to United. Please don't do this to me, man. Wait. No. Wait. I love that. Just don't do it, please. Just no. Right. I think we can leave it there. It's been fantastic just chatting to you. It's very sort of chilled type of show this morning. I quite like the idea of a Sunday show. But James, I really appreciate you. Enjoy Bastille Day and your selection of foods that you're going to have. Really appreciate you making the time to join. If anybody wants to follow James, he's available at AFCJXMES. And of course, you can find him on Wednesdays in the Cannon podcast with Alex Moneypenny and team. Khan, great surname, I approve, says, morning, guys. Great show as always, FK. Big up, James. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And of course, if everybody could tap the like button on the way out, it is a massive help to the channel, helps with the YouTube algorithm. We are edging in on 25,000 subs, which would be an amazing achievement for this tiny little channel. And I appreciate everybody watching on this Sunday. We'll be back tomorrow with Sam Dean of The Telegraph. Where is Victor Gyökeres is the question that I'm going to ask him. Then on Tuesday, we've got Tom Canton. On Wednesday, I've got Ben Jacobs. And there's a few
star-studded.
Hey, star-studded. Yeah. Are you not entertained, people? Are you not entertained? We're going to leave it there. Look after yourselves. Enjoy the Sunday that lies ahead. It's a little bit cold and wet in London for sure. But so many of you are watching from so many glamorous places across the world. I appreciate you all for tuning in. And like I say, keep it Arsenal. And we will see you very, very soon. Take care. Bye for now.